Welcome to Beautifully Restored. I'm Melissa Stewart, and this is a personal growth podcast on using your setbacks for success. I was once a Baptist pastor's wife whose huge fall from grace left me feeling alone, completely ruined, and without hope. Join me as I interview people with some amazing stories of restoration. Plus, I will share my own journey of fighting back to a place in life where I now run several successful businesses, am raising two incredible kids, found love again, and no longer identify with my past mistakes. Because it's not about where you've been, it's about where you are going. Okay, Brian Covey, welcome to my podcast, Beautifully Restored. Thank you so much for being here today. I cannot wait to get to know you because I really don't know that much about you, but thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. And I know we run in the same circles. So this has been one that we've been trying to put together, and I'm excited to be here. You're doing some great things out there, Mel. So glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, thanks. And so are you. I cannot wait to just dive into all of it so everybody can learn more about you. So you live in Tennessee. Let's start with that. I know you have a family. You have three beautiful kids and a beautiful wife. Am I right?
That is it. Yeah, we start with our oldest, our daughter. She's a soccer player. She's 13. And then our first son that was born, he's 12, football guy. And then our youngest is 5. So we got a little gap in there. And he's like, from what I'm told, he's the mini-me. He does all of the CrossFit stuff and sports and just high energy, cool kid. And then, yeah, my wife and I, we've been married almost 20 years coming up. So just very blessed and cool family here, south of Nashville, just in Franklin, Tennessee.
Great. I know where Franklin is. It's a great place. I like call that God's country. It's the most beautiful place.
We love it.
Visit. Yeah, I would totally retire to Tennessee. So I live in Illinois, and there's nothing going on here but cornfields and boredom and terrible politics, and it's a mess. But totally moved to Tennessee. So I do know an interesting fact about Brian Covey is that he played professional soccer, right? Tell me about professional soccer. How'd you get into that?
Well, I grew up playing multiple sports like most kids, and you're just trying things out. In an early age, I realized soccer was one area that I loved. My older brother had played. I was around a lot of great people, and we grew up in Memphis. And I was just exposed to soccer, even from church leagues at like 4 and 5 years old. I'm chasing my brother and his team around that he was 5 years older. And then I ended up early. At 13, I'd made the Olympic team and the development pool. So there's like the Olympic development team.
Yeah.
So I started to realize at an early age that, okay, maybe there's something there. And of course, high school boy, I'm like, I'm going to get a college scholarship. I'm going to go play. I'm going to do all that. And fortunately, I was able to. I traveled over to Europe and played a ton as a teenager. And then actually ended up out of a change of circumstances of some coaches retiring, some opportunities coming up, some great coaches at University of Memphis where I lived. The team had really developed and was doing well. And I had an opportunity to go play for my local college there, which was great. Got an opportunity to start. And then after college, the MLS was coming up at that time, and they had the USL A League, which is like minor leagues. And so I played here in Nashville and just loved it. Part of why we ended up moving here later with my wife and I is we loved the town. And it was such a great experience because, as most people know, as you move up through high school to college, the percentages of people that make it there, especially D1, drops off. And then D1 to professional, it was another level, but it did teach me not only the skills, but things I translate into business today of having the right mindset, overcoming adversity. You're going to win some games, you're going to lose some games. You're going to have some games you play well, some you don't. And you're working with so many different coaches that shape and mold you. And I take that in today of like being part of a great team and being part of that level, college and professionally. It's taught me a lot in life that I take into now as we're building our teams over at Loan Depot and all of that into business. It correlates, I think, perfectly.
I bet. And the grit and the grind, the hard work, not just the ups and downs. And, just I'm sure at that level, the practices were intense and all of that. The coaches were probably intense.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. So do all your kids play soccer? I know some of them do.
They do. Now, our middle, he's kind of drifted towards flag football. He likes to do more of the outdoorsy stuff, which is super cool. But our youngest, I mean, he probably doesn't have any choice. He'll literally, like even this morning, he turns on soccer instead of a cartoon, which makes me happy. I'm cool with that. Like we'll do that. But his oldest sister, so she is actually a goalkeeper, trains on a travel team here. and plays. So he just gets pulled around to that. He's just almost like pulled into it. And I laughed during working from home in quarantine. We've got a home gym we set up, kind of a CrossFit style, and pull-up bars, kettlebells, all this stuff. He doesn't know any different. He just goes out there and he mimics what we do. And it's cool though. I love it. And I think it's a good way for them to understand team sports. And like you said, just putting in the work at an early age. Like, no one gets good in sports without putting in the work, on and off the field. And so it's good discipline for them for later in life.
It is. It made me think of a story. One time, my daughter, I do weightlifting and stuff too. I got into CrossFit years ago. Love it. Right. I don't do it anymore, but I do more powerlifting stuff and strength training. My daughter was little. She grabbed the light bar and she goes, "Mom, sometimes you do this." And she literally cleaned it and pressed it over her head. I still have the video. I was like, the
Wow.
proudest mom moment ever. She was like, "Mom, sometimes you do this." And I'm like, "You just cleaned and pressed the bar, baby."
Awesome.
No, right? Anyway, so that's great. So I kind of know what you do. You work with a loan finance company or something, a business. It's maybe you're growing it. You got a team. It's grown, different states. What
Yeah.
in the heck? And what direction were you planning on going as you grew up and you went through college and then you were doing professional sports and stuff. But what were you thinking about your future? Tell me about that.
Yeah. So I think for me, it really started back in college. I was very fortunate that we had a lot of professors and teachers that worked at FedEx, International Paper, AutoZone, and all that, and Fulgham College of Business there in Memphis. We had some great professors. And actually, probably because of those teachers, fell in love with finance and marketing. I didn't know what the job would be, but I had some friends that their parents worked in the banks there locally, like First Tennessee and Morgan Keegan and all this. Remember, I was like, well, they dress nice, they seem to live in like a good place, all the stuff that a typical like 18 to 21-year-old, you're like, I think I could probably learn that or do that. Well, sure enough, you're coming out of college, and I'd played a little bit in professional soccer, and I came back to finish my degree. Well, no one would really hire me. I didn't have any skills or credentials to do that. And I went to a job fair, and I found a company at that time that was Wells Fargo, that was a bank. And they said, we hire athletes, we train you, we're going to give you a manager in this whole onboarding program. And they had this incentive program basically of, like, if you can sell, you can get paid more than just a salary. And I thought, I'm driven, I'm competitive, and I love training. I know training and coaching pays off. And so I was fortunate. I spent 13 years there, worked my way through doing lots of different things, but I started in more of the bank and consumer finance side and learned the business. I think this is really important for people. I tell them is I started literally like helping people get an auto loan or finance furniture, underwriting credit and understanding what that was. And just as low as you could think, like I was literally at the lowest end of the totem pole, and I would drive 45 minutes to the branch because they wouldn't hire me at the one near me. It was the only job. So I took what I could get, made the most of it. And as I worked through, what was cool is there was opportunities, and I found this in sports, and this is where it correlates, is I found that the harder I worked and the more time I put in, like I would print out guidelines and documents about loan programs and what I needed to know. And my wife will tell you, she's like, you would highlight stuff and you were studying in the nerd. And I'm like, I wanted to be the best at what I did. And so then that translated, and I moved over to the home mortgage side, which is where I really built my career. And it was, ironically enough, my friends were buying homes, right? Like 25 years old, buying their first home. And they would come ask me questions. And I was like, well, I know what I'm doing to a degree here. I want to learn this. This is fun. Like I felt like buying a home. There was just such joy to it that I was like, okay, let's go do this. And since then, it's been great. Only worked at one other company in between that was wonderful. So I kind of got out of corporate America. I tell people it didn't really fit me. After a while growing in those things, I was like, there was too much of the guardrails around, and building your personal brand wasn't there, and just some things I wanted to venture out. And so I went to a company and helped them build out several markets. And then almost 3 years ago to the day, Loan Depot and I were talking, and I never thought I would move companies. And I moved over, and we've built an incredible team. I think, some of the people tell the story, but we started at right around 200 million a year in loans that we were offering. And this year we'll probably surpass 3 billion with our team.
Holy
And
smokes.
yeah, pretty cool. I have amazing leaders around me, and just growing and learning myself, and bringing people along that journey with me that are leaders, that they have aspirations, they have dreams, they have goals, and we're able to create that. And I've learned if I can create that infrastructure and I can dream big enough, then their dreams will fit within what we're trying to build for the enterprise. And it's a ton of fun. It's like sports. You hire and you basically recruit the best people to your team, and the best people that play like a team typically win. And that's what we've created, that culture here.
Yeah, that's really cool. It sounds like you've got a coach role too with them, coaching them through, finding their own success, in their position in the company, and that's fulfilling.
It is that way. And what they know is I was an originator on the street. So for our team that's actually originating loans and helping customers buy and refinances, I was the one that was out there on the weekends before really you would find properties like you do today. Like you can find any property online. We started and you would call on open houses, and I would drive through subdivisions that I couldn't afford to buy in. And my wife and I'd be like, well, these look amazing. I'd love to loan somebody, four or $500,000 out here. And so I would drive through and literally walk into a open house, and there'd be a real estate agent sitting there. So it's in essence a cold call. And I tried to use some of those skills I learned through soccer, and just how do you connect with people? How do you relate with them? And how do you come in and not be the typical salesperson that was walking out there asking for a referral right when they walked in the door? Like, how do you, and I learned in early age, how do you add value? So our team knows, like, I've walked the walk with them. I understand what's there. That's part of the fun of, I think the best leaders now is I'm able to rewrite what my job is based on what the team needs, right? Like 2020, the team needed very different things from me as their leader. Is because we were no longer in person. I'm having to video call and work remote and take care of not just their business life, but we had to get really intentional about how are we supporting their mental health, their physical fitness and their health there. If they're not in an office, how are they functioning? How do they get business if they used to always do everything in person? I love it. I mean, that's one of those like most fulfilling thing ever when people are telling you, and we'll be sharing some success stories here from last year. And when people tell you they had their best year ever, they worked their hardest, but they feel fulfilled and part of a team. Like that's the joy of what we get to do.
Heck yeah, that's a great job. It really is. Wow. So where do you see that going for you in the future? Just staying there with the Loan Depot company and just continue to build that up?
It is, and that's why I joined. As one of our core values here is the entrepreneurial spirit. And I look at that as part of why I feel like a good fit, and they were a good fit for me, is just that we both have this growth mindset, that there's an abundance of business out there. There's customers that need us. And right now you've got some of the big companies, and you'll see us marketing online and things and commercials, but there's so much business for us that I could see this infinitely growing, right? Like the 200 million to over 3 billion that we'll do. Like, there's no reason that couldn't be 6 billion, 10 billion down the road for us, that our team then, and what I'm most excited about, I'll tell you, is like, then I can elevate and help people on my team. They want to grow bigger teams as well. And I always wanted to work for a company that would allow me, that people didn't have to leave my team for opportunities. Because that's the way it was in our industry of like, if you wanted a bigger opportunity, well, if your boss doesn't go anywhere, you don't have any upward mobility. Well, here it's very different. We have structured it so that if you're on my team, we're working together and we're part of the same team. Well, you can grow a team as big as you can handle, right? And you can grow that and grow that. Nobody's going to stop you, right? And that's, wow. I think that's what fuels all of us, is a little bit of the competitive spirit. But yeah, I see this. It's going to be for me, retire here and just have fun and enjoy, make the
Mhm.
most of it.
Well, there's no ceiling in a structure like that. So I've seen people in environments where there was a ceiling. And first of all, there's no motivation to push harder. And there's really no satisfaction or joy in the job because you feel like you're in a rut. You're not going anywhere. So I think it's a great structure for the company to have that where sky's the limit. You just put the work in.
What we tell people is it does attract high performers. And so we shifted from more of the old school recruiting model to, we went to more of the attractive leadership. And like, I know Coach Burt talks about this person of interest. We shifted to that. And so now we're attracting the right people that have that same growth mindset. And what's beautiful about that is most of them want to run their own business. Many of them don't want to do it on their own dime and their own capital. To go out and do this on your own, you would never have the resources a large company like we do actually are able to deploy for them. But they want to be part of that. They don't want anybody to tell them they can't grow anymore. They don't have the resources to do it. And I mean, that creates this dynamic culture. I feel like that should be more of what this modern kind of culture looks like, is people that don't have to leave their company to create more opportunities for others.
Right. I love that. You mentioned growth mindset. You've probably read the book mindset, right?
Yeah.
uh, Tell me, what do you do when someone comes onto the team, or a new hire or whatever, who has a fixed mindset? Can you help teach them a growth mindset, or is that job just not going to be good for them?
Possibly. So I think it's a great question, one, because we've seen that, right? And I've made bad hires, and I can remember several years ago just making some bad hires, and it was like, okay, what did I miss here? What did I do? And I think sometimes people see themselves differently. And so I started to get more into the art and science of, we use things, whether it's disc profile or Enneagram. We're using some of that with our team today. I think you have to go beyond what someone says and how they interview, because let's call it what it is. Someone's going to interview exceptionally well. They're going to tell you everything wonderful about what they do. And if you start digging into it, they're going to present themselves in the best light. If you were to ask somebody, are you a growth mindset type person or are you fixed? Most people, if they're interviewing, they're going to tell you, oh, I'm growth mindset. I am. I want to grow. I want to work hard. I want to do that. And so I will say that I look for upfront someone that is coachable, because to your question, I think if they don't have the growth mindset today, but they are coachable, I have seen people on our team that they get around enough people that are movers and shakers and doing things,
Mm.
that they're either going to self-select into that, or they're going to realize this isn't for me. And we've had some people self-select out, and that is okay, because there are other companies that are okay with you staying status quo and just barely getting by. And every month you start over. Every month you're trying to figure out where your business comes from. We don't play that game. We're much more of kind of this infinite game of, there's enough business for everybody, but we want people to have processes and systems and be successful. Like right now, there's this huge refinance surge that's going on. And many people in our business are successful because business is literally falling from the sky. Everyone can get a lower interest rate, so it's easy. There's an abundance of customers everywhere, and most of them will go online and they will find you. And so that's, for us, is that's great. But how do we build, battle tested warriors, so to speak, so that when the market does shift, and if we see anything like we did in '06, '07, '08, are you prepared? Are you prepared for that battle? And so I look for people that are coachable up front. And kind of answer your question, there's going to be a point at which we're going to have that conversation with them. And we're not shy about letting people know this might not be the best fit, right? Like, we use a lot of technology. We move fast. We make changes. We admit when we screw things up and we go the wrong direction. We say, hey, we got to go this way. And here's why we were wrong. And if people can't fit into that culture, it probably is not best for them or not best for us to stay and try to fight that, right? Because at some point, it's just not who they are.
For sure. I think, like you said, coachability is probably one of the key points there, because a lot of us grew up with a scarcity mindset, and a lot of these people, and I don't know if you did. I know I did. I grew up with a factory dad. I have so much respect for, worked so super hard. And my mom was mostly a stay-at-home mom. And so, I grew up believing that you work hard so you can earn income. And there's that other belief system, and that other whole other side of the world, the entrepreneurship world, where it's like, no, you don't work for money, you make money work for you. And you don't look at it as this limited resource, but you look at it in abundance. And I didn't really grow up that way, even though I had everything I needed. We were fine, but I've had to get around people. And I think when you said that, getting them around, your teams and your people and that leadership, to help them shift that mindset, to kind of open up their self-limiting doubts. I'm sure that's a big part of it for you as a leader with people, is just opening up their minds to that.
Well, it is huge. And what we've done is I've taken the approach of, there's not a one size fits all in this whole coaching world. And I know we were talking about this earlier. Is we have really invested and started to network and make relationships. Part of my job is making relationships with coaches around the country. And for someone like that, they need a specific type of coach, where someone over here that's like, they're all in, they have all the motivation in the world, but they lack some of the skills and the discipline to actually follow up and follow through. They're going to need a different style coach. And so what I've tried to bring to the table, I feel like one of my roles as a leader is to make sure that we have enough resources and support internally and externally, so that wherever you are on your journey, let us find that person with you and let's invest in that together. So your growth and journey here, and people know that when they join, is like, if they have a conversation with me, they know right away we're all about learning and growing. And that starts with me, and that goes through the entire team. We're never going to land at a destination of we're just good enough now. We can put it on cruise control. Just that's not our mantra at all, at all.
Right. Yeah, everybody needs a coach, right? Have you ever
Yeah.
read the book? Coach Michael Burt. Everybody does need a coach. Coaches need coaches, and really people do benefit from coaching. And so I know that's been a big part of your life. And it's funny, that's how I heard your name the first time, was sitting at a boot camp in Nashville, Tennessee under Coach Burt and my other coach, Ken Jocelyn. And I'm hearing Coach Burt drop this name, uh, Brian Covey. I'm assuming he said it was saying it right, Covey. I don't know, but I remember thinking, is he related to the great Stephen Covey? Right? We talked about that earlier, but I was hearing your name getting dropped, and I'm like, the guy's not here, but Coach Bird's sure talking about this guy a lot. So that's the first time I heard about you, and then I probably just looked you up on Instagram. I don't know what I did, but obviously you've been coached by one of the greatest coaches that we know right now, and that's, I'm sure, been extremely impactful for you in your life and in your business.
Yeah, and it started for me, and that's where I was growing up playing soccer. It was normal to have a coach and multiple coaches, like with Olympic development team, high school, club team, like all those. But I had coaches everywhere, and I was blessed in that both my mom and dad worked as I was growing up, and my dad actually left kind of mid-career, and he was doing some counseling, and decided he was going to go back and get his doctorate in psychology, which was great for me. Like years later, I've learned and been able to really appreciate that, because growing up with dad that was there and nurturing and strong faith and just very grounded, but also had this mental part that we would do, basically a kind of visualization before games. And I was taught that in high school, of visualizing how the game would play out. My mom worked for the city of Memphis, downtown Memphis, and all this stuff. I remember she was just the hard worker and the grinder, and I got to see like work ethic put in. And she only worked there and retired almost 30 years later. And that, I look back, that shaped and molded me. They were obviously parents, but they got me around coaches that even to this day, like it's just in me. You know what I mean? Like I don't have a slow down button. It's hard for me to slow down. And I think that's from coaching. And so that's why I still invest in coaching for myself, and I want my team to, because there's blinders that we don't see in our own lives that I believe a coach can come along and they will accelerate your growth. And it's been proven, right? Like this is, I don't think it's even up for debate. If you invest and you get the right coach for you, your results will improve, unless you just don't do any work, which the right coach is either going to fire you, kick you out, or they're going to help you figure out where your gaps are to get where you want to go. And so why wouldn't you want to accelerate your learning and development? So I look at it this way: is I'm going to be the best leader for our team. The leader Brian was 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, wasn't equipped to lead the team in 2021. Every year I've got to get better. And I've got to be thinking about, what are we going to do in 2025? That's the Brian I need to become. And it won't happen by accident. So I'm all about, let's bring in coaching to help accelerate it. And I think it just makes your life more well-rounded, right? So you just don't get stuck in a rut, and you're around great people.
Yeah, I agree, of course. Gosh, what a gift you had in your parents. You mentioned about kind of your dad, the visionary there, and that creative kind of, um, you know, role in your life, and then your mom watching that work ethic, and just what a cool balance and
Yeah.
an example you had to see. What do you teach your kids, and what kind of things are you doing for those that are listening today that are parents? It's tough nowadays because kids seem to be lacking motivation. Kids seem to be lazier, and there's just too much of a temptation to sit behind the computer game for the whole day and on their phones.
Yeah.
It's different. It's different now. Of course, when our dads were growing up, way different. And when you and I grew up, then different, but it's really different now. So how are you raising your kids? And give some advice to parents out there.
Man, so the biggest takeaway, and I talk about this a lot, is several years ago, it was probably a breakthrough for me. I went on this men's retreat, and there was a coach there who's now become more of a mentor that I work with. And he had this next level experience. It was really for married dads with kids, and the challenges that you have. And all those dads run businesses, whether they're part of a company like I am, or they run their own companies. And it's this trifecta of like, you've got your marriage over here and your wife, you've got your kids over here, you've got your business over here. Oh, and let's not forget about your physical and mental health over here. And oh, what about your faith over here? And I was just in this kind of tailspin. I'd come out of probably one of the lowest points in my life where I was part of a team. We were growing and we were very successful. And somebody I looked up to at the time came to me and said, "Hey, Brian, we don't think you're the right fit for this team and this role, and we're gonna go another direction and all this stuff." And I thought, the first time in my life, I was like, "Hold on, the results are there. I'm not a fit." And it was one of the lowest points where it was like you start questioning yourself and well, I thought results matter and I thought I was doing the right things. And you go into this tailspin. And my wife was a rock. I mean, just amazing through it. But I tell everybody that was the biggest catalyst because that caused me then to find this next level experience that I went on. And so I tell the story because there's a connection between all this happening of like hitting a low of all lows and then realizing maybe I don't have it all figured out. Maybe this is harder than what I thought it was going to be. And I'm not going to give up. So I need to get the tools and get equipped to win this life battle. And the biggest takeaway that I took from all of that, outside of adversity and things are going to happen to you, and you need to be prepared for that. And if it's your first time going through it, know that it's going to be okay, right? Like I got cut from teams. I remember in sports that I broke down and I was like, I wanted to be on that team, like even the Olympic development team. And that was a big point for me I can point back to is I made it to the final group of like 40. I didn't make it on the final team to go to Japan and play in the Olympics and do all that. I didn't. So I learned lessons early in life that I then took on. So fast forward to this next level experience, I go there and I'm always trying to like balance out. You hear the word balance, right? Like you've probably heard it. So Raul, who leads this group, he's like, there is no balance. Throw that word out. There is no balance. There is only integration. And he walks me through this, and there's 8 other guys there, and this intimate setting, and we're going through all these almost like Navy SEAL type things, like you're bonding and you're realizing what you're made of, and you know where your trouble spots are, like where your blinders are and tendencies. And I remember learning to integrate things, and practically what that would look like is, we were talking about earlier, is when I go work out at home, I'm going to take one of the kids with me. My daughter wanted to start running over the holidays and like doing that in addition to her soccer. I'm going to go run with her. When I go to practices, games, I help coach a lot, but I found it's the little moments, right? And it's that 15 minutes before bed, just no electronics, no phones, just talking with your kids. I think that's overrated, that it's like, or I should say underrated, that time is important. And we do this thing called rosebud thorn. And I've shared this with people. And the rose obviously is the best thing that happened in your day. Like, tell me about what the best moment, what was the highlight of your day? And then that bud would be, what do you hope happens tomorrow? And then the thorn obviously is like, what was something that happened today that maybe didn't go so well? And so we're teaching our kids and I'm getting them to open up, and it's a conversation tool. And I remember since then, like I just don't look at being a dad the same way anymore. I don't look at being a husband the same way anymore. And if I can give my best in business, I should be able to give my best to my wife and my kids. And it does require intentionality, would be my advice, is if you can start to integrate, be intentional about those things. And with 3 kids, my wife and I were talking about this morning, we're all over the place. And we feel like at times, like we're failing. Like this kid's getting more time than this kid, and this one's responding to that. And you're like, man, we're not doing this right. And I think to give yourself a little bit of grace and realize the kids are going through their journey as well. And just to be there and love and care on them, because they will model so much of what we do. And it's as small as you were talking earlier about your daughter picking up the bar and doing a clean. And my son was grabbing a PVC pipe the other day. He's 5 years old and he's doing basically a squat snatch with a PVC pipe. And I'm like, how? And they model.
Yeah.
So this kind of came full circle. If you work on yourself and you're intentional about yourself and you're sharing your journey with your kids, they're going to model that. And I want my kids to know that life is a journey and faith is huge for us. I want them to have that rock and that foundation, but to know that life isn't always easy, but you will rebound. And from each of those rebounds has always come, honestly, a higher degree of success and a higher degree of knowing who I am. And I want them to know hard work pays off. And so that's why, we push them a little bit. It's like, nope, we're not sitting at home just hanging out tonight, right? Like we're going to go out and do something. And that's what I would say. It's not an easy job, but gosh, what a fulfilling job it is. And I feel like that's what we were kind of called to do. I don't think God would have given us 3 kids if he didn't think we could do it. Right. And so just trying to grow into a better dad and husband every day.
It's great advice. Actually, I like the integration side of that. I like that we put pressure on ourselves because we feel like we're not spending enough one-on-one time with our kids, but just taking those little pieces of time. And it's kind of like that compound effect. We all talk about it as entrepreneurs, the slight edge, doing
Yeah.
that little bit every day. It really does add up to a lot. And when you take those little nuggets of time with each of your kids, even if it's just 10 minutes, and you just spend that little bit of time with them, all of that adds up over time, and it turns into a great relationship. And then the whole work ethic side of things and the grit and the grind, they're watching you and they're seeing that.
Oh,
You don't even have to speak those words to them; they see it, know it.
isn't that true? I think we discount that. And that's part of why we built the home gym. Was one, it was easier. I could get more time with the kids and do that. But two, as they get older, I want them to be able to do that with me. Like that's going to be time for us to do those things. And like even this weekend, my daughter had this keeper wars. So it's goalkeepers against each other. And there was an opportunity to go to Sarasota. And so we're actually going to fly down this weekend and just take our daughter to get some time with her because she's that teenager and, more time with her is always important. And I
Mhm.
thought, wouldn't that be cool? And so we're talking this morning about, what would the boys want to do? Like what could be a weekend away with them and starting to get more intentional as they get older of what are their interests and can we go just take time with just them? And I think that's going to be important. I'm starting to see that opportunity, just to spend some more one-on-one time with each of them.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea a lot, actually. And kids, that goes so far with them, that quality time that's just for them, especially when you've got 2 plus kids. It's hard. You feel like you're sharing so much time with all of them. And so you're doing a great job of integrating everything together, no doubt about that. So, as you look back on your life, you told that story. I was going to ask you about like maybe some challenging things that you've been through. That story of feeling almost rejection from that company that was moving on from you. And it's kind of funny that when you look back now, it's not funny, but when you look back now, it's like I'm sure you realize it's good that they did that. Thank God they did that because look where I'm at now.
Isn't that the truth? In the moment, it was probably the hardest week or so we went through. And I remember just being shocked. And I'll never forget, it was Cinco de Mayo. I got the call on a Friday afternoon. I just remember looking at my wife. She's like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "I don't even know how to like." I think I was just fired, let go, told to take a different position in the company. Like your head's spinning, and you're like, "What just happened here?" And sometimes you need that shakeup because I look back and you're right. Like maybe there were some things on cruise control. Maybe there were some things that I wasn't aware of, and things. And there was a lot of other things to it. But I'll tell you the biggest takeaway that at the time I was reading the book Extreme Ownership. Jocko and Leif. And I remember that has stuck with me forever is it was almost like that was given to me for a reason. And I looked at the situation of what could I have done better? What did I do wrong? Because I could have, and I won't go into the details, I could have very easily put blame. I mean, there was a lot of other things going on. I could have very easily taken the victim route, right? And just said, what in the world? I'm one of the top performers, blah, 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 blah. Nobody cares. Um, it was a good self-reflection. And I'm glad it happened the way it did because it's made me who I am today and pushed me to another level that had it not happen and those things not happen the way they did, I don't think you have breakthroughs until sometimes you break in a way. Like
Mhm.
you get to the point of almost breaking. And people may say, well, you didn't break. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I don't know. I just know my mental toughness is on a pretty high level after that to know that we can face just about anything if we can deal with that. And I do look back, Mel, to sports. Again, there's so much correlation of making some teams, not making some teams, starting, not starting, having coaches be difficult, hard on you and tell you things you don't want to hear. Like that shapes and molds you. And so don't try to overprotect your team or your kids from some of that feedback in life could be the best feedback that they need to really be the catalyst for their growth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know that to be true from my life for sure. So I agree with you on that. Uh, you know, Looking ahead to this coming year, or this year that we're in now, 2021, 2020. is now behind us, right? There's been so much talk about can't wait for that year to be over, and here we're in 2020. What have you gone into this year hoping for? Are you a goal setter? Are you someone, do you write your goals out? What kind of a person are you in that regard? Just to share with the audience, and what are you hoping for this year for yourself?
Well, that's a great question. So last year opened our eyes to things are not always what they appear, and things can change in an instant. And I go back to that 2006, 2007, when in the housing market and mortgage market just crashed. I remember there was a implodometer website you would go to every day. People would actually go to look to see if their company had gone out of business.
Oh my
And
gosh.
and I take that into 2020 really did teach us priorities. And for many of us, our priorities were out of whack, and we were maybe spending more time somewhere than another. And it created a new opportunity, a clean slate. And I think this is what people really want. We talk about it every year: New Year's resolutions, new year, new me, all this.
Mhm.
Well, there was an opportunity throughout probably 6 to 8 months of 2020 to create the new you, because we were being given signs and we were being told what it was going to look like. Meaning, great example, working from home. I went and invested in some equipment, better camera, got my equipment set up here. That's not going to be an excuse. I'm going to still need to recruit, build my team, connect up with our team, have conversations with people. Well, I'm just of the mindset of I don't want a camera or an audio or different things that don't work well or have a reflection like of my brand. I'm like, now I need to go invest in here. And we were all given time back. And what's the number one thing people usually complain about? Oh, man, I don't have enough time.
Mhm.
Well, most people, especially entrepreneurs, if we were driving into an office, we just got our commute back. I was no longer traveling every week. There's time back.
Yeah.
And so I think it highlighted, do you have the skill set of adaptability and ownership, or do you not? And for some people, they didn't learn it, unfortunately, in 2020. And so that was a skill that I was really honing in last year of where is this going to go? And I realized as a business leader, I'll tell you the biggest shift was making sure we're taking care of our team as the whole person. You know, and you hear about the Stephen Covey piece of like whole person theory. Like we needed to take care of our team. Business we can handle. We know how to get customers. We know how to service our customers. And we can always get better in those areas. But the basic blocking and tackling, we've got that dialed in, and we'll continue to improve. But we had not paid attention to other areas of people's lives and connecting up like it was. And so this year, I am a goal setter and a goal writer. I wrote down some crazy goals. I've already done most all of our one-on-ones with our team that's in the local markets. We've planned out. And I'm looking at this year, potentially we will double again. And I'm also looking at where's the leadership gaps with our team that I need to help people right size. So if they want to grow a team to a certain size, what do they need? And for me, I'm having fun with it again, because I think if you took lessons from last year and you came into this year and you don't have this hope and a prayer mentality of 2021 is just going to magically be better, I'm ready for battle. Like I'm literally ready for rates to go up in our world, which would change the dynamics. I'm ready for home buying to slow down. I'm ready for all those things. So then what's my shift? What's my strategy at that point? And I've already thought through those things and roadmapped it. And what I've done that I would give people this is I'm a planner on Sunday night. I'm going through my entire schedule. I know where my meetings are. I'm canceling meetings that don't make sense or aren't the highest value of my time. And then I also try to do these 90-day sprints. That's what works for me. And it really works in this market, because 90 days from now, nobody really knows what's going to happen. You just, we're not in that type of world where I believe you can predict out a year and go, with a change in administration, with everything happening, politically and culturally and all that, we really don't know 90 days from now. And so I want to win this 90 days. And that's what we're teaching our team, is almost like we're going to win this first quarter.
Mm.
This is what we need to do to win. We're going to win that. Then we're going to huddle up and we'll figure out what we need to do from there. I think that's what, if you have that mindset, you're going to have a much higher probability to be successful this year.
Yeah, I like that. I like the 90-day sprint idea. That's really cool. And it makes it very easy then to measure and track. When you set these big goals for the year, it gets overwhelming and it seems like, well, I'm not sure how to get there. So if you break that down, I like the 90-day sprint. That's excellent. And well, first of all, thank you for not canceling this meeting. Since you cancel meetings that don't matter on Sunday. We kept this one.
Yes, we did.
Thank you. But so Sunday night's a big thing, a big planning for you. Before we close up today, I'm sure people would love to hear, like, are you a morning routine guy? Do you get up early? It just seems like everybody I talk to who's just like that hustle and driver, they're always morning people. They get up early. They got this morning routine every day. And if you do, tell us what that is.
I realize for me, it is early morning. I function better. Like even this morning, my brain started running at like 4:30. And I'm like, some days I wish it wouldn't. And
Yeah, right.
I do like the morning workout. So I'm a member here. We've got Iron Tribe, which is similar to a CrossFit type. And I like that. For me, it feeds my energy and who I am because it's a class, the music's going, their coach is there, the workout's prescribed, the equipment's there, great people. So you get this social, but you also get a challenge. Every day I go in there, I've yet to find a day that I go in there and I'm not at some point in the workout thinking, man, this is really hard. I could slow down a little, or even at times you're like, I could go just take a little water break, right? Like I'm take a break. And I love it because it does start my mornings off right. And then I'm also one of those like faith-based, like I like to have a little bit of like spiritual, like just slow down, even if it's just 5 minutes, like slow down, take some of the Bible in and like just kind of ground myself for the day. And I think that's what I would encourage people is if you're going to start your morning at 6 a.m. or 8 a.m. or whatever, 4 a.m., put some things that are programmed in because I'm one of those big believers in our unconscious brain and the power of that. It's been proven how that works. And I want to program things in so less decisions have to be made, meaning I know I'm going to work out. And the good news is I know what I'm wearing because I laid it out the night before, less obstacles, less hurdles, and the workout's there. I just have to show up. And from there, I come back. My wife and I, we help the kids get to their schools. Thank goodness they're only at 2 schools. Last year was 3 schools.
Oh,
And I've got my calendar ready to go. So throughout the day, there'll be video meetings, there'll be calls, there'll be things that we've got there. And then I try to leave in the afternoon. What I've learned is I try to leave these 2-hour blocks, typically 2 to 4. And that's for me to return phone calls, kind of assess where things are. And it leaves me another opportunity after 4 to take care of things, issues that come up, things that I need to schedule, things that are just more like, let's be more in the strategy or more in like, okay, there's some urgent matters I need to handle. But I've realized for me, at least, I can't go an entire 8 hours back to back to back, or I will be exhausted. So one thing I've learned through the work from home is, we've got a little dog, and when it's nice out, I may even go out for 15, 20 minutes, take a call outside, or I may go sit outside to eat lunch. I will go outside and get some fresh air, and just to be out in nature has been really good. And then you kind of heard the nightly routine. We usually have sports, so we're kind of bouncing around doing stuff. But then at night, I usually get to put down our youngest and like, spend some bedtime with him and read stories and all. And then our older two stay up a little later. So it gives me a chance then to spend some time with them and just get that. But each day looks a little different, but I'm definitely a believer in get the morning workout, get that done, and let that be some fuel for your energy and your confidence for the day.
awesome. What legacy do you want to leave behind someday? What do you want to be remembered for?
Ooh, man, that's a good one. I think somebody that cared about other people in a real authentic way that genuinely built relationships and made people's lives better. So every interaction, I want to leave somebody, like even after our call today, I want you feeling better about yourself, more hopeful, more optimistic, have happiness, and then also share my journey along the way and that legacy of, I'm a guy that doesn't have it all figured out. I've had my wins and, losses, however you want to call them, but somebody that continued to work hard. And for my kids are really the legacy, because they're going to carry on the name and they're going to carry on who we are. And I'd love for somebody one day, kind of like people have said about my dad, like who I admire and look up to so much, is like, he has this very kind, gentle spirit. And I would love for people to go, man, when I interacted with Brian, like that's what I really took away is he was always somebody that I enjoyed spending time with.
Well, that's what I would say about you. You do have a kind and gentle spirit about you. And so I would definitely say that about you, the little that I know of you. What would you tell, for the last question, what would you tell someone who's listening today who's maybe not feeling a lot of hope? Maybe they're feeling like, I don't know what my purpose is even in being in this world. And everything feels like a struggle right now.
Yeah. We've all been there. I mean, we don't always hear about it and social media distorts this. We all know that. But I think even listening to my story today and people that are around you, the people that have overcome the bigger obstacles typically lead to bigger successes. And I always look at that and go, there's other people in life that have been dealt a more difficult hand than I have. And I'm not comparing, but I'm just saying factually, there are people that had less of an opportunity, less, whether it's financially or opportunities or things. Um, the fact that we were born in America, right? Just take that for granted some days. And I would encourage people, I've always gotten centered going back to gratitude. And the days that are the hardest is you just find three things that you're grateful for in your life. And after that, take action from it. Who you surround yourself with absolutely matters. And I realized in points in my life that I was surrounding myself with negative people that typically were telling me all the reasons it couldn't be done or why they couldn't do it or why I couldn't do it. The naysayers, those aren't people that are healthy for me. And in those moments, you need to surround yourself with others. And I would find them. The beauty of social media is you can find those people. And many of them, like us, if you reach out and connect in a real way and you're like, hey, I would love just to learn more, or maybe you just follow positive content from someone, start infusing that as you start your day. And part of what, put the plug in for the book that's coming out, Conversations with Covey, is it's literally 10 people that have all overcome some type of adversity or some type of huge setback in their life. And that's going to give you hope, but hope without action followed behind it is still just hope and it's inspiration. We need to put some action behind it. And that's where I come back to having a coach or infusing in, like, what am I going to do now that I realize there is an opportunity for me to go forward? I don't need to stay where I'm at. And plenty of people have done that. There's no reason I can't do it. And so that's what I would say to anyone today. And just know that there are people out there that care. And there are people out there that you should be around that will help and inspire you. But you've got to take the action to pull yourself out. Typically, nobody's coming to save you out of that. You've got to take the action yourself. And as soon as you take that ownership, your world starts to change.
I believe that 100%. I think those two things, gratitude and then surrounding yourselves with positive voices, messaging, as much of that as you can, and then taking that action because it is in your control. Your life is in your control, besides, of course, God, right? But I do believe that, he gives us that freedom
That's
to
right.
either choose to thrive or to be miserable. And so I do believe that. You did mention your book. So before we end this, I want you to talk a little bit more about that because I believe you said it's coming out next month and it's Conversations with Covey.
Yes.
Conversations with Covey. And this is like, you have a podcast too. What's the name of your podcast?
Brian Covey Show.
The
So
Brian Covey Show. So you can find that on all the major podcast platforms, of course. Is it on YouTube also in video format?
it is on YouTube video format. We typically stream live. So we've actually got one
Okay.
tomorrow and we usually do them on Wednesdays, but we're doing those live and you can go to just briancovey.com and you'll find all the previous episodes and some really cool people on there that you want to check out.
Yeah, super fun. You've interviewed some like super big names and you've got amazing connections and you've interviewed people with crazy stories of, taking their setbacks and creating big success from them. And some of those stories, like you said, are the ones that you've put into this book and the lessons learned from those, what you took away from it, and then the lessons that those people themselves took away from their own journey, but it's put into a book format. I love this idea.
Yeah.
So this comes out next month. I'm assuming it'll be available on Amazon and
All the big ones. Yeah. And I
all the
can't
big
wait.
ones.
We're going to do promos around it. So we're going to have each of the guests and that were the writers with us and on the show actually share some of their story and some behind the scenes. So be looking out. We actually do have it set up. Now we just set up the Conversations with Covey Facebook group. And we're actually going to have, once you see who some of the people are, you're going to want to be part of this, but they're going to be sharing some of their resources, chiming in, and we'll be giving you some behind the scenes, maybe one-off 5-10 minute interviews with them, really letting you know. And you'll find there's probably a few chapters or one person at least you resonate with their story and you want to go check out more. So then you could go check out the full podcast that we did with them. But this is going to be, so I really believe this is going to change some people's lives and make a huge impact with the collective impact we have with the people we did this with are just amazing. They're amazing people.
It sounds incredible. And it sounds like it's going to give a lot of hope to people that are feeling like there is none. And what a great resource. I'm sure I'll be using it myself to recommend. And I mean, Brian Covey, you are big time. I was excited for this interview because I feel like you are big time and you are doing big things. And I admire that to where I'm at now in my journey. I admire where you are. And I hope I can just continue to learn from watching you and your journey. Thank you for sharing so much valuable content with my listeners. I appreciate it so very much.
It was an honor. I love this, and you're doing great things. And I know you're sharing your story, and you really are in that stage of you're going to start to see the growth because you're putting in the work and you're getting your message out. And I think that's wonderful. So for your listeners, I mean, for them, this is exceptional for them to be able to learn directly and go on the journey with you.
Yeah, thank you. I just, as you do, we just want to impact as many people as possible in this life.
That's right.
I mean, why not? Like that's, to me, that just is the ultimate purpose for life, is just helping people, impacting and giving hope. So thank you so much again for your time. This has been fantastic.
Awesome.
If you enjoyed this episode of the Beautifully Restored podcast, I'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and give a review on iTunes. Check out my website link that I've included in the show notes to sign up for some free stuff and stay up to date on my blog and special offers. Thanks for tuning in, and see you next time.